The first half of 2025 saw Iran and Israel's shadow war erupt into open hostility. Diplomatic channels collapsed, replaced by threats and military posturing. Skirmishes over the Persian Gulf and intelligence on Iran's nuclear progress pushed Israel toward preemptive action. The world braced for conflict as military analysts debated scenarios ranging from surgical strikes to regional war. In Tehran and Tel Aviv, commanders finalized war plans while civilians sensed this time was different. The spark came on a clear June morning, ending the shadow war and beginning a new, more terrifying chapter. The international community could only watch as the region's fragile balance shattered. The June conflict began not with a formal declaration or a warning, but with a sudden, jarring eruption of violence that shattered the uneasy calm of the region. In the early hours, as most of the world slept, the first signs of war were not words but actions, swift, decisive, and unmistakable. The roar of jet engines tore through the night sky, followed by the thunder of explosions echoing across cities and military outposts. Sirens wailed, and the world watched as the Middle East was plunged into chaos once again. Israel, determined to seize the initiative, launched a series of preemptive airstrikes targeting Iranian nuclear facilities and key military installations. Their goal was clear: to cripple Iran's ability to retaliate and to establish air supremacy before a wider conflict could unfold. Precision-guided munitions lit up the night, striking deep into Iranian territory. But Iran was ready. Within hours, the response was overwhelming. A massive barrage of ballistic missiles and swarms of drones launched from multiple locations. The sky became a battleground as Israel's air defense systems struggled to intercept the relentless onslaught. Some missiles slipped through, striking military bases and infrastructure, while drones targeted radar sites and command centers. The first days of the war were marked by a brutal exchange of long-range firepower. Both nations suffered heavy losses, with airfields reduced to rubble, military assets destroyed, and civilian areas caught in the crossfire. The devastation was swift and widespread, leaving scars that would last long after the smoke cleared. This was a war fought not just by soldiers on the ground but by highly trained pilots, missile crews, and drone operators. Technology played a decisive role: remote, high-tech, and deadly. Each side relied on cutting-edge systems and the skill of their operators, turning the skies into a deadly chessboard. Around the world, governments watched with growing alarm. In Washington, the Pentagon held urgent briefings as U.S. military officials monitored the escalating situation from command centers. The risk of a wider regional war loomed large, and every decision was weighed with the utmost caution. American intervention would eventually force a fragile ceasefire, but in those first desperate days the skies belonged to the warriors, both seasoned veterans and a new generation of pilots and operators. The fate of nations hung in the balance, decided by those who fought above the clouds. And as the conflict intensified, an aging legend, long thought to be a relic of the past, was about to be called into battle once more, ready to write a new chapter in the history of aerial warfare. Amid the chaos, a scramble order echoed through an Iranian airbase. A veteran F-14 Tomcat pilot, trained for this moment, raced to his aircraft. A relic of the past but still formidable. The ground crew armed the Tomcat with a mix of aging and improvised missiles. Israeli fighters were deep in Iranian airspace. His squadron was tasked with intercepting them. The pilot, aware of the odds, felt a surge of resolve as the canopy closed. His Tomcat, plagued by decades of sanctions, was unreliable but still deadly in skilled hands. Engines roaring, he took off to defend his nation's skies. His mission: find, engage, and drive back the intruders. The stage was set for a remarkable aerial duel. The roar of the engines filled the cockpit as the F-14 Tomcat thundered down the runway, the pilot and his weapons systems officer bracing for the unknown. Once airborne, they entered a high-stakes game of cat and mouse, where every decision could mean the difference between life and death. The sky was a vast, unpredictable arena, and the tension was palpable as they climbed to altitude, scanning for threats on every horizon. The F-14's temperamental radar flickered with static, a reminder of the jet's age and the challenge ahead. Despite the unreliable electronics, the crew worked in unison, coaxing a lock onto the Israeli jets weaving through the sky. Each blip on the screen was a potential adversary, and the tension mounted as they prepared for engagement. The engagement began as an electronic duel, with Israeli fighters unleashing sophisticated jamming techniques and executing evasive maneuvers. The cockpit was alive with bursts of static and warning lights, as the Tomcat's system struggled to keep up with the relentless electronic warfare. It was a battle of wits and technology, each side probing for a weakness. Warning tones filled the cockpit, a cacophony of alarms signaling missile locks and incoming threats. The pilot's hands moved with practiced precision, flipping switches and executing split-second maneuvers to break enemy locks. The Tomcat twisted and turned, its airframe groaning under the strain as it dodged and countered with every ounce of agility it had left. As the distance closed, the fight turned visual. Sleek, modern jets with cutting-edge avionics against the aging Tomcat, whose reputation was built on raw power and pilot skill. The sky became a swirling battleground, with jets darting and weaving in a deadly ballet, each pilot searching for the perfect shot. The pilot pushed the aircraft to its absolute limits, using the Tomcat's variable sweep wings to carve impossibly tight turns. G-forces pressed them into their seats, vision narrowing as the world spun outside the canopy. Every maneuver was a test of both man and machine, demanding total focus and unyielding resolve. For nearly 2 hours they endured crushing G-forces and moments of sheer terror, relying on their training, instincts, and the unspoken bond between pilot and WSO. Every second was a battle against fatigue and fear, as they worked together seamlessly, anticipating each other's moves and sharing the burden of survival. The dogfight was a relentless dance of survival, with every maneuver, every burst of gunfire, and every near miss a test of nerve and ability. The pilot's senses were heightened, time seeming to slow as they reacted to threats in the blink of an eye, each moment bringing them closer to the edge. In those critical moments, the pilot and his WSO became a single fighting unit, their actions perfectly synchronized as if fused with their machine. Trust and communication were their greatest weapons, allowing them to adapt and survive against overwhelming odds. Against the odds, they held their own in the sky, emerging from the chaos battered but unbroken. Their story is a testament to courage, skill, and the unbreakable bond forged in the crucible of aerial combat. The duel was as much against the Tomcat's age as against the enemy. For Iranian pilots, every mission began with a silent negotiation, not just with the threat in the sky, but with the very machine they trusted their lives to. The F-14, once a symbol of cutting-edge power, had become a relic, its best years long behind it. Yet it remained the backbone of Iran's air defense, a testament to both necessity and ingenuity. Iran's F-14s, once the pride of the Shah's Air Force, now flew on borrowed time. These jets, delivered in the 1970s, had outlasted their expected service life by decades, flying in a world that had changed dramatically since their arrival. They survived only through ingenuity and cannibalization. Mechanics became masters of improvisation, stripping grounded jets for parts, inventing new fixes, and keeping the fleet alive with whatever resources they could muster. Sanctions forced Iranian engineers to keep a handful flying, often working in harsh conditions with limited tools and no access to original spare parts. Every repair was a gamble, every takeoff a leap of faith. By stripping others for parts, they created a patchwork fleet, each jet a unique blend of old and new, original and improvised. The pilot faced unreliable radar, questionable missiles, and a cockpit filled with warning lights. Systems that once worked seamlessly now failed without warning, demanding constant vigilance and quick thinking. Airframes were pushed beyond their limits, creaking and groaning under the strain of maneuvers they were never meant to endure. Each flight was a test of both man and machine. Every flight risked catastrophic failure. The threat of disaster was ever present, and emergency crews stood ready for the worst. Pilots prepared not just for combat, but for the possibility of mechanical breakdown at any moment. Every maneuver tested the jet's aging metal, and every decision in the cockpit could mean the difference between life and death. The stress was constant, the margin for error razor thin. The legendary AIM-54 Phoenix missiles, once the Tomcat's deadliest weapon, were nearly gone. Decades of embargoes had left only a handful, and those that remained were often unreliable. They were replaced by unreliable local copies, hastily developed, and never fully tested. Pilots could never be sure if their weapons would work when it mattered most. Pilots learned to fly by feel, relying on instinct and experience. They anticipated failures, fought with resourcefulness, and developed a sixth sense for their machine's quirks and moods. The June dogfight showcased this unique culture, a brotherhood forged in adversity, where skill and cunning mattered more than technology or firepower. In the heat of battle, Quick thinking and bold moves often tipped the scales. The pilot's ability to adapt, improvise, and outwit their opponents became their greatest weapon. The pilot's endurance was a testament to Iranian aviators' resilience. Each mission left them exhausted, but also proud. Survivors in a war fought as much against time as against the enemy. In the sky, survival depended on instinct as much as machinery. Against all odds, the Persian Tomcat and its pilots endured, flying on the edge, where courage and ingenuity were the only guarantees. After nearly 2 hours, the dogfight ended not with a kill but a tactical disengagement. The Iranian pilot claimed to have forced an Israeli jet to break off, a story quickly seized by state media. The IDF remained silent, leaving the outcome ambiguous. Analysts speculated, was it fuel, mission completion, or genuine retreat? For Iran it was a morale-boosting victory, for Israel a safe return was success. The truth likely lies between the narratives. In modern air combat, survival and perception can matter as much as destruction. The Tomcat's duel became a propaganda victory, but the fleet's fate was grim. Israeli strikes destroyed F-14s at Mehrabad, their fiery end broadcast worldwide. Most remaining Tomcats were grounded, too valuable and vulnerable to risk. The June War marked the end of the F-14's era in Iran, yet the pilot's story went viral. A detailed debrief captivating millions. His account sparked debate. How did an obsolete jet survive so long? The pilot became a national hero and a symbol of defiance. His story countered images of destruction, offering hope and pride. The F-14 pilot's story redefined air combat's meaning in the region. It proved that skill and determination could challenge technological superiority, if only briefly. Iran embraced asymmetric tactics, investing in missiles and drones over jets. Israel reflected on vulnerabilities, spurring new investments in defense and training. The duel became a symbol of a new era, where information, innovation, and individual courage shape war. The legend of the last Tomcat endures, a testament to the enduring spirit of the pilot. In the calculus of war, the human element still matters.